I, 17-year-old male, have been in therapy for many years. I don't go so often anymore, like once a month now. But when I was younger, starting age 6, I went twice a week and eventually once a week. Therapy is a place that continues to help me after a traumatic experience when I was 5 or 6. The only people, other than my parents, I ever told about the experience were my parents, my maternal grandparents, and my best friend I've known since I was 4. When mom died and dad got remarried, I had zero wish to tell my stepmother. I never cared that deeply about her to tell her, and I do not trust her that much. She's not in my inner circle of trust and love, which is what my therapist helped me see it as. The inner circle are the people I am okay with telling, and it might even grow much. It makes it easier for me. The fact I never told my stepmother is something my dad always struggled with. He asked me for permission to tell her before, and I told him I wasn't okay with that. He asked me why, and I told him she wasn't part of my inner circle. A couple of times he brought it up around his wife, and she started asking questions and was hurt to hear my best friend knew because he was a kid, but not her, an adult, and she considers herself my parent even though I don't. Then a couple of weeks ago, my dad told her anyway. He knew I wasn't okay with it. He never had my permission. I had always refused to tell her myself. She tried to talk to me about it, and I refused. I told my dad I would never forgive him for telling her, that I will never trust him again. I told him he was now removed from the circle, and technically I only had one parent still in there, and I can't even talk to her because she died. My dad claimed my reaction was too harsh, and I shouldn't remove him from the circle. His wife told me she felt she earned her place in the circle. I told her she was never even close to the circle and would never have been part of it. I told her if my wishes had been respected, she never would have known about my past trauma. I refused to forgive my dad or engage with either of them on the topic. So my dad and his wife wanted us to go to a therapy session together, and I put my foot down and said no. They told me it was the only way to move forward as a family, and therapy can help us. I said I only invite people I love and trust into therapy with me. My dad said I can't stop loving him over this, and I admitted I hadn't. But I no longer trust him. His wife asked if it was her I didn't love, and I said yes. They accused me of acting out of malice and contempt and said I would regret it in the future. They also told me I need to leave room for differences of action and opinion. I told them this was not something to be shared with anyone against my will, and my dad made his choice and he chose to lose my trust. They keep insisting I need to attend therapy, and I need to give this a chance to be resolved and for us to move on. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. His wife told me she felt she earned her place in the circle. This is what gets to me the most. She and your father do not get the fact that it's not up to them or about them. A lot of people feel they have earned a raise at work, but it's up to the boss if he feels they have earned it. In this situation, you are the boss. You may be the child and they are the adults, but it's your trauma, your therapy, your feelings and emotions that matter, not theirs. Does your therapist know what you are dealing with at home? If so, what are they doing to explain to your dad and stepmom how their actions will have the opposite of the desired outcome and further traumatize you? Comment 2. Not the idiot. 1. It wasn't your dad's experience to tell. 2. A difference of opinion on who is entitled to know does not somehow make it okay to stampede over your clearly stated boundaries. Your dad has no leg to stand on. You're not acting with malice by enforcing a clearly stated boundary. He's minimizing and distracting by trying to turn it into a "you're so wrong for treating us this way" thing. It's pathetic, really. Remind him that someone doesn't get to hurt another person, then decide how that person responds. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of my story. So after all that mess with my dad and his wife, things got even more complicated. I thought I had made myself clear, but they just wouldn't let it go. They kept pushing for that family therapy session, saying it was for the best. I kept saying no. It was like talking to a brick wall. Then out of nowhere, my best friend, the one person I thought I could always count on, started acting weird. He was distant, not returning my texts as quickly, and when we did hang out, he seemed distracted. I couldn't figure out what was up. It was like he was avoiding me, but I had no idea why. Turns out my dad had talked to him. My dad thought that if my best friend could convince me to go to therapy with them, I'd listen. But my friend knew better than to betray my trust like that. He told my dad he wouldn't do it, but the conversation must have spooked him. He felt caught in the middle of something he wanted no part of. That's why he was acting off. He didn't want to lie to me, but he also didn't want to be the one to tell me what my dad had tried to do. I only found out because I confronted him. I asked him straight up if something was going on. He spilled everything, apologizing like crazy. I wasn't mad at him, though. I was furious with my dad. It felt like he was trying to turn everyone against me, to isolate me until I gave in. The tension at home was unbearable. My dad's wife would look at me with this mix of pity and frustration, like I was some broken thing she couldn't fix. And my dad, he just kept on like nothing was wrong, talking about mundane stuff, trying to act normal. It was surreal. One day I came home from school, and there was this letter on my bed. It was from my dad. He wrote about how he was sorry, how he just wanted us to be a family again. He said he understood if I couldn't forgive him, but he hoped one day I would. He ended it by saying he was going to respect my wishes from now on. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the trust was gone. How could I trust words on a page when his actions had shown me something else entirely? The next day I found out he had done something that just blew my mind. He had set up a college fund for me, a pretty substantial one. He said it was his way of trying to make things right, to show he cared about my future. It was a grand gesture, sure, but it felt like a bribe, like he was trying to buy my forgiveness. I was torn. On one hand, the money would be a huge help for college. On the other, accepting it felt like I was saying what he did was okay. I talked to my grandparents about it, the only family I felt I could trust. They told me it was okay to take the money without forgiving him, that I could use it to build my future, to move past all this, so I decided to take the money. But I made it clear to my dad that this changed nothing between us. He seemed to understand, or at least he didn't argue. Things were quiet for a while after that. I focused on school, on my future. I tried to put all the drama behind me. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. Just when I thought things were settling down, my dad's wife left him. She said she couldn't handle the tension, the lack of trust. She said she needed to be somewhere she felt valued. It was a shock, to say the least. My dad was devastated. He had lost his son's trust and now his wife. I felt a weird mix of emotions. Part of me felt vindicated, like this was the consequence of his actions. But another part of me felt sorry for him. He looked so lost, so alone. It was a reminder that actions have real consequences, that you can't just expect people to get over things because you want them to. In the end, I learned a lot about trust, about forgiveness. I learned that they're not things you can demand or buy. They have to be earned. And sometimes, even when you want to forgive, you just can't. Not yet, anyway. Thanks for reading about my mess of a life. My fiance refuses to let my parents' friends come to our wedding. So I cancel the whole thing and leave him with the non-refundable deposit. I, 27-year-old female, and my fiance, 30-year-old male, are getting married in September. Originally, we wanted to have a reception with 85 guests, but the venue I really wanted stated we had to invite 100 guests. So we went ahead with the venue I wanted and invited 100 people. After the invitations had been sent out, my parents were upset to find out we did not invite 4 of their closest friends and their spouses, 8 people in total. But they thought it would not be a big deal to ask us to invite these 8 people. My parents are the extremely generous type, and I am very spoiled. For this wedding alone, they have brought forward $10,000, which pays for more than half the wedding, and my mom paid for my wedding dress. And their generosity goes beyond what they have paid for the wedding, helping me get through university debt-free, paying a portion of our house down payment, helping me buy a new car, and just all around being there for me emotionally. And for all this, I want to invite these guests to make them happy, as it would make me happy, and I want to show them I appreciate all they have done for me. It's much easier than paying them back, LOL. My fiancé does not share this opinion and insists this wedding cannot go above 100 guests. He agreed to inviting them after the RSVP date provided space becomes available. But I really think most guests invited will RSVP yes. I explained to him that I want to show my parents my appreciation for all they have done for me, but he states he would sooner give them their money back than invite these 8 guests. We have had several arguments, and I have shed many tears over this issue, but he will not budge. He thinks my parents are the AH because of the last-minute attempt to change our guest list, and I think he is being the AH for being unreasonably stubborn. And perhaps I am the AH for not taking his side on this. After all, it was me who wanted the bigger venue. Am I the idiot? Edit. My parents are not these filthy rich people or anything. They are hardworking, self-made people who continue to work and save to get where they are today. Growing up, we were actually lower middle class, and my parents have only recently found success. They do not go on trips or treat themselves. They just want me and my siblings to be happy. My fiance grew up more well-off than me until his parents decided to go through with the world's messiest divorce. When the list was 85 people, the invite list was lopsided in my direction as I have a huge family. All of the 15 extra people are from his side. There are 46 guests from his side and 54 from my side. My parents and my fiance have gotten along very, very well up until this. My parents love him and he loves them. We were a happy family before this riffraff. He still tells me he loves my family, but right now we are having an argument. Edit 2. Not sure if this is a key detail, but everyone is accusing me of not compromising on anything. We have agreed to have a private ceremony. There are 15 guests attending the ceremony. The rest of the guests are reception only. This was a huge compromise for me as it was very hard to pick a set number for the ceremony only. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your husband didn't want a wedding of over 85 people, but compromised for the venue, right? Now you are inviting more. So how many other things has your boyfriend had to compromise on? In other words, let you or your parents get their way. Ask yourself, what was the wedding he wanted and where did he want it? That will give you the answer on who the AH asshole is in this story. Comment 2. I think I know what's going on. You say you're very spoiled. He sees it and doesn't like it. He thinks your parents need to back off and that you need to stop being mommy and daddy's little princess. You and he need to have a serious discussion about this. He seems resentful and I don't blame him. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around for this update. So the wedding drama just escalated. Remember how I said my parents wanted to invite their friends? Well, turns out one of those friends, let's call her Linda, got wind of the wedding and the fact that she wasn't invited. She confronted my mom about it, and my mom, feeling cornered, promised Linda she'd be there without telling me or my fiance. Fast forward to last week and Linda's husband, who apparently can't keep a secret to save his life, blabbed to my fiance about their invite. You can imagine how that went down. My fiance was livid, accusing my parents of going behind our backs. I was caught in the middle, trying to smooth things over. But the damage was done. In the midst of this, my cousin, who's always been a bit of a chaotic card, decided to drop a news. She's pregnant. And guess who the father is? My fiance's best man. The kicker? They had a fling after our engagement party, which was supposed to be a one-time mistake. Now with a baby on the way, our families are at each other's throats and the wedding is turning into a battleground. My fiance, bless him, tried to keep the peace by suggesting we cut some of his distant relatives to make room for my parents' friends. But when he brought it up with his mom, she threw a fit. She's still bitter about the divorce and sees this as a chance to one-up my fiance's dad by having more of her family at the wedding. Meanwhile, my maid of honor confessed she's been seeing someone on the side. And it's not just anyone, it's my brother. They've been sneaking around for months, and she's feeling guilty about it. She's worried it'll come out at the wedding and cause a scene. As if that wasn't enough, my parents sat us down for a serious talk. They've decided to withdraw their financial support unless we invite Linda and her husband. They say it's about respect and keeping friendships intact. My fiance was about to explode, but I managed to calm him down. We're now stuck in a tough situation, trying to figure out how to keep our wedding from falling apart. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my fiance's sister announced she's getting a divorce. Her husband was caught cheating, and she's moving back home with her 2 kids. My fiance's family is rallying around her, and our wedding issues seem trivial in comparison. But still, it's another layer of tension as we approach the big day. Through all this, I keep telling myself that it'll all work out in the end. I love my fiance, and I know he loves me. But with each passing day, the pressure mounts, and I can't help but feel like I'm losing control of what's supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. Thanks for reading this mess of an update. My wife leaves me alone while I'm sick and dying to work. But when she cheats and abandons our kids, I make sure she loses everything in the divorce. Recently, I unexpectedly became very sick after catching a virus from my toddler and 11-month-old daughters. I ended up with bronchitis and pneumonia. I had a fever of 105. I had severe coughing attacks and I was coughing up buckets of phlegm. I had severe chills and every night I'd be drenched in sweat from the coughing and fever. I didn't sleep for 7 days, but for 30 minutes here and there. I had to visit the ER 3 times for severe chest pain and trouble breathing, as my oxygen levels would regularly reach dangerous levels. I simply was not getting better. It just so happened that my wife had requested Friday and Monday off because our girls' daycare was closed. She did her best to care for the girls while I was isolated in the guest room. There were moments each day where she lost her temper with our toddler, and I had to muster whatever strength I had left to console our daughter from the outburst from my wife. She would regularly snatch our daughter by the arm and drag her out of our bedroom and lock the door because she wasn't being quiet enough, leaving our daughter crying hysterically outside the door, trying to get back in. I didn't like it, but I tried to be understanding. My wife was just frustrated and overwhelmed. A few days into my illness, I'd already been to the ER twice and I was not improving. I'd shared with my wife that I was getting worried if I got any worse, I might die. I'd started to feel disoriented and dizzy along with all my other symptoms. That same night, she told me she'd be going to work the next day, Monday, and taking our 2 daughters with her. I asked her why this was necessary and she said she had a small project she needed to complete that was important to her. I told her that from my perspective, work could wait. I needed her. She was off anyway. And her boss is very understanding and they'd figure it out. I didn't understand why she also felt the need to burden herself with work. She went anyway and left me alone for about 5 hours that day. I was upset and disappointed by this and my wife couldn't care less. The whole time I've been sick, she showed no empathy for me and was more annoyed than anything that I couldn't provide the utility I normally provide. I had to go back to the ER the day after she went to work, and thankfully I've started to feel a bit better now. It's been 2 weeks. Nonetheless, it's led to a deep division in the relationship with my wife. This is not out of the ordinary for her. She regularly puts work and everyone else before me. It just feels like this could be the last straw for me if I can't even count on her when I'm sick. Of course, she thinks I'm being dramatic and she sees nothing wrong with what she did. She started the public campaign of making me the jerk for expecting her to stay home and care for me. Am I the idiot for expecting my wife to care and support me when I'm extremely sick? Is that really an unreasonable request? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're the idiot. When I am sick as a dog, I still have to care for my kid and function as an adult. There is no time to be sick. I do not get to rest. I have no help. As a mother of 2 young kids, she has been on overdrive parenting alone. Be thankful that her efforts granted you the ability to rest relatively alone while having her help sprinkled in between. Willing to bet you were fed, had clean clothes to wear, and a bed to sleep in without having to feed, clean, clothe, entertain, and maintain 2 young children. Her leaving for 5 hours of work and likely a sanity check on her part is your hill to cry on? You are being very dramatic about her priorities. Gross. What a child you are. I would be sick of your BS too. If I were your wife, I would welcome a divorce if those papers dropped in my lap. Grow up. Comment 2. You're the idiot, and I agree with your wife that you are being dramatic. Why were you not admitted to the hospital? It's very strange that the ER would not admit such a seriously ill person to the hospital. Do not tell me your wife was getting 8 hours of sleep all those nights you claim to have been awake, except for 30 minutes here and there. She left you alone for 5 hours. So what? She needed some time away from you and your needs demands for her attention. She thought you were well enough to be alone a few hours and she was exhausted. Hear this. Going to her job with her 2 little kids was a break for her. You had a phone, you had all your church buddies, you had 911 or your country's equivalent. You had alternatives, but you, in my humble opinion, decided to test your wife. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for the latest. So where do I even start? After the whole sickness saga, things took a turn for the worse. My wife, she's been acting strange, more distant than ever. It's like she's got this secret she's holding on to, and it's eating away at the fabric of our family. Out of the blue, she announces she's going on a business trip for a week. No prior discussion, no consideration of how we'd manage the kids. Just drops it like a bomb and expects me to deal with the fallout. I'm still not 100%, but what choice do I have? I step up because that's what you do for family, right? The week she's gone, it's chaos. The toddler's throwing tantrums left and right, the baby's teething, and I'm juggling doctor's appointments because my lungs are still not right. But I manage. I always do. Then she comes back, and it's like she's a different person. She's got this glow, but it's not for me or the kids. It's like she's living a separate life where we don't exist. Turns out she's been seeing someone, some guy from work. I find out from a mutual friend who thought I knew. The betrayal hits like a punch to the gut. All those late nights, the business trip, it all makes sense now. She's been lying to my face, to our kids' faces. And for what? Some fling? I confront her, and it's like she's not even sorry. She says she's felt neglected, that I don't appreciate her, as if her cheating is somehow my fault. The nerve of her, right? We argue, voices raised, and the kids, they can hear everything. I see it in their eyes, the confusion, the hurt. It breaks my heart. In the midst of all this, she drops another bomb. She's leaving, just like that. Says she needs to find herself or some nonsense. She packs a bag and walks out, doesn't even look back. The kids are crying. I'm trying to stay strong, but inside I'm crumbling. After she leaves, it's like the house is hollow. The kids keep asking for mommy, and I don't know what to tell them. I'm angry, sure, but more than that, I'm lost. How do you explain to a toddler that mommy chose someone else over them? But life doesn't stop, does it? I've got to keep going for the kids. I start doing it all, the cooking, the cleaning, the bedtime stories. And you know what? We start to find a rhythm, just the three of us. It's hard, but there's this sense of, I don't know, like we're going to be okay. Then just as we're settling into this new normal, she comes back, says she made a mistake, that she wants to be a family again. But I can't just forget everything. I can't trust her, not after all the lies. So I do the only thing I can. I tell her it's over, for real this time. She's made her choice, and now I've made mine. The kids, they don't understand why mommy's not staying, and it unalives me. But I've got to think about what's best for them. A home without trust, without loyalty, that's not what they deserve. So that's where we're at. She's gone, and I'm here picking up the pieces. It's not going to be easy, but I've got to believe we'll get through this. For the kids, for myself, we're going to be okay. We have to be. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.